leaders of the city of Barcelona, so you can get to know them personally and also know them, what they're doing in this city and how they're contributing to this city to be one of the best cities in the world, in my opinion. So here today in our first episode, we have Pastor John Carrano. He's the pastor of ICB Church in Barcelona, our church, one of the most amazing communities of this city. And welcome, John. We're excited to have you.
Man, thanks. And super excited to be with you today. And thanks for the invite, and excited for the new podcast. It's gonna be awesome to see what's in store.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here in our first episode. So we're just gonna dive right in. We know John and Brandy, they're the lead pastors of ICB Church. We want to get to know them. We want to get to know what they're about. Okay, I'm going to be asking some personal questions. We had some financial and economic conversations with him before. He's really into the stock market and he really loves to see what's going on. And I'm sure he has a really interesting perspective, or I'm sure you're plugged in what's going on economically in the world right now. We want to talk a little bit about that. But we're going to start with the question of, where are you from and how in the world did you end up in the city of Barcelona?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I am originally from the States. My dad is Italian. My mom was from Texas, and was born in Nebraska. Don't judge me. And moved all over the world. So dad was a military guy, and ended up living in many different countries in Europe as a kid. And then I went back and forth across the States to a bunch of different places. Went to like 9 schools before university, but landed in Florida, and went to university there in Lakeland, Florida, a place called Southeastern, and met my wife there, met Brandy there. And then after school, went into business and worked in the business world for a while, into executive coaching with a guy named Zig Ziglar, and then off into ministry and worked at a church for about 6 years. And honestly, we were sensing a shift to do something missional and to step out, moving out of the US and to move abroad. And just honestly, in prayer and seeking God and talking it through with Brandy and dreaming and seeing what was possible, Barcelona started coming up on the radar. Now, I have to tell you, we were engaged in Madrid years ago. And so when we first got engaged, she was interning in Madrid, and I flew over to surprise her. And so in those moments, we actually talked and said, I think one day we'll be back in this country. It was about 9 years later until we actually came back, but just an awesome part of our story. And to be honest with you, from the moment we stepped foot into Barcelona, we fell in love with the city. Originally came here to work with university students and with some different NGOs and doing different work around Spain and Europe. And then 6 years ago, transitioned into the lead pastorate at the International Church here in Barcelona. So
ICB basically was running already, and then you came into the picture there.
Yeah, so we had met the former pastors that were there, Dan and Kathy Stump, who are still very dear friends of ours, and they started just building a relationship with us. They would invite us to be a part of things they were doing. We were working with a ministry here in town, but it was separate from ICB at the time. And Dan and Kathy were really the ones that pushed forward on that and said, hey, listen, after about 3 years of having conversation on it, they said, look, we feel like it's time for the International Church to go in a new direction. And we know we're not the ones that are going to take it there, but we sense that maybe you guys are. We told them no for 3 years in a row. Finally, we had a conversation. They said, well, what do you sense when you're praying about it? And I said, look, man, some things need no prayer. And he laughed and said, man, just pray about it and see what God says. And we sensed it was a yes. And so that was about 6 years ago. And it's been a crazy, beautiful, wonderful journey since that point.
That's amazing.
But the church has been here this year, 26 years in Barcelona, in Eixample.
Good. Okay. So you've been there for a long time. So
yeah,
you guys were super young when you became the lead pastors of ICB, right? How old were you?
Gosh, when we first took the church, Brandy would have been about 31. I was 34.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what you guys are doing in ICB is absolutely amazing for us. It was the biggest blessing when we came here to Barcelona. That's why we wanted you guys to be in the first episode, because if we want to introduce cool leaders and cool things to the people around Barcelona, ICB is definitely the most important things that happen to us, the biggest blessing. God is doing amazing things with ICB here in Barcelona. And I wanted to ask you, what's the vision of the church? I know it's amazing what it's doing, but tell me, what's the vision of the church?
Yeah, well, man, first off, I just want to say we love you guys and we're so grateful that you're plugged into the community. For us, we realize that people are on a journey and we all need to connect. Like, I think all of humanity is searching for connection, for meaning, for purpose, for a place to belong, for something that's bigger than who we are, that provides that lack that we sense in our soul. And so we just said, look, we want to create a space where people who know God can come and grow, who don't know can come and ask questions and figure out what this thing's all about, and really build a place where we're a family and we're a community, and that we can grow together, we can walk together, we can laugh together, we can cry together and do life. Barcelona is a beautiful city, but with any large city, it's also one of those things where you can get lost in the shuffle. And you can be in the midst of hopping on the metro, going to get coffee, hitting work, going to the gym and back home. And unless you're living with roommates that you know well, or married or something like that, or in a relationship, you really can get lost in it. And so we've met so many people that said, man, I've lived in the city for years and had no real life-giving friendships or relationships that I could build on until I found a community that was consistent and that challenged us and pushed us. So really, we want to love on the city. You'll see it on everything we do. It says we're in the city for the city. And that's not just a mantra that goes on t-shirts and cups. That's really our heart. We love this city. We believe in the city. We know God loves this city, and we want people to find hope and meaning and purpose and just also enjoy the ride. None of us are perfect. Not myself, not Brandy, not our staff, our team. We're all flawed human beings on a beautiful journey to try and find hope and enjoy the ride. So
yeah, it's an amazing team, and every single person in the ICB staff is awesome. They were all so welcoming. We made a lot of friends and really deep connections, which is something interesting. It doesn't happen everywhere. Really deep connections and really deep friendships, really fast. You know what I mean? We have friends that are getting married, that we are part of the wedding, and we are helping them organize the wedding.
That's awesome.
And we're doing all this stuff. And we just came to the city. So how is it possible that ICB creates that, that community of like, you feel safe, you feel that you have a family for real. So that's amazing what you guys are doing there. And also wanted to ask you, that was the vision of ICB Church. But what's your personal vision? Is there anything that differs from ICB, or something that you're like, I'm doing this with ICB, but me and Brandy or you are going somewhere else? What's your personal vision?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think on some levels, as the lead pastor, as the senior leader of the organization, a lot of that takes on your personality, and a lot of it takes on your heart. And so if you don't believe it, if you don't live it out, then no one else will either. And so for us, honestly, that in our city for our city was kind of our heartbeat from the beginning. And we just said, look, we want to create space where people can really connect and they can grow. We feel passionate about walking with people, helping along the way, mentoring and helping people grow spiritually. I'm a pastor, so we do the faith thing. And so we want to help people grow spiritually, want to help them grow emotionally. And so we have a whole counseling team that's part of the church as well. We want to make sure that we equip people. And so I love opportunities like this to connect with guys like you and Kelly. I love the different things that we'll do on an ongoing basis as a church, where we offer seminars for parenting or for finances or whatever it may be, emotional transition, the whole gambit. And so really to offer opportunity to help people grow and to really embrace that this is a beautiful life. And it doesn't mean it's always easy, but it does mean that we can have fun. It does mean that we can have purpose, and we can leave a mark that's really worthwhile if we live with intentionality. And so I read a quote years ago that said, everyone gets somewhere in life. Some of us get there on purpose. And I just said, you know what, I want to be a person that gets there on purpose and that helps others get there on purpose as well. And so that's what we do, man. We invest our lives in helping people along the way and trying to create that space. And so we do this because we love it. People ask me like, well, you're an employee of the church. Well, I'm not. Full-time volunteer. My wife and I are not paid to be the pastors. We work there full-time, but we do our own stuff on the side to make sure that we can make ends meet. But we do this because we love it, and we believe in people, and we believe in what God wants to do in people's lives.
That's amazing. The next question is, do you have any major tips, or what's the biggest advice that you can give an expat family that is coming to live in Barcelona? What are the
Yeah.
2 or 3 things that they should know?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. Just for us, one thing I would say is look for the beauty that is here. We do have a few stores where you can get goods from your country, wherever you came from, and that's fun from time to time. But if you sink deeply into the culture, deeply into the rhythms of what Barcelona is, what it means to live in Catalonia, you'll enjoy it much faster. I knew people that would just always call back to where they were from and always talk about the food they didn't have. And I said, we have really good food in Barcelona. We have really amazing beaches and mountains. You can be at the beach in 10 minutes or skiing in an hour, and that's a unique opportunity. And so I would say look for the beauty that is where we're living, and don't just reminisce over what you don't have. Sink deeply into what you do have. Language acquisition. We challenge every person on our team and on our staff to learn Spanish, and then to push themselves to learn some Catalan once they know Spanish. If you can speak the language where you're living, at least somewhat, it makes a huge difference. So I would say do that as well. And then I would say don't waste time. Now every culture is different. Well, we come from the States originally, and in the States, there's the dance that we do, right? Like we come into it and we have this whole process of how we're gonna get to know people and what we're gonna do and the timeline that it takes. And honestly, sometimes when we move abroad, we just waste a lot of time. And so one of the things I love about ICB, and one of the things that you mentioned earlier, is that you were able to jump in quickly and become family fast. And I think that's important. Don't waste time. Don't dance around. Jump in, make friendships, make relationships, enjoy the moments that you have. And if you're here 20 years, you won't regret it. And if you're here a couple of years, get everything you can out of it. So live with intentionality every day. Those are my main things.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So basically, my first advice is go to ICB and then try to figure out everything else.
Come on. So, we'll help along the way.
Yes, exactly. So now, financially and economically, I know you said you were in finances and you manage a lot of that in the US. I know you have some real estate, some stock, you're in the stock market, you're always plugged in there. What is going on right now in this crazy time economically? What's your vision? What do you think is going to happen? What advices do you have to us that maybe are not that connected to that world?
Sure. So let me preface that with, I'm not an advisor. This is not advice, but
yes. This is
but
not financial disclaimer.
Right, exactly. I can give you a couple of my thoughts. First off, everything is in chaos. I mean, we've seen financial markets just turn upside down overnight. I mean, who would have thought a couple months back that the entire world would hit the pause button? It's absolutely insane when you think about it. But it creates some new opportunities that we didn't have before, to catch up on reading, to do some things around the house we always wanted to do, to connect with people we love deeply. If you got kids, pull them close. My kids, I've got 3 of them, have been just amazing during this time, and we're really enjoying the time. But when you think about it, the entire world just went, whoop, stop, which is both troubling, crazy, and wonderful and bizarre all at the same time. So when you're talking about like the financial markets, just from my point of view and my thoughts on it, obviously numbers are way down. I think that they're the lowest they've been probably in 20 years. We've hit multiple markers on the US stock exchange where they hit certain safeguards, which just stopped all trading so they wouldn't crash. And, things that you go, man, I never thought I'd see that much in such a short amount of time. And so everyone's natural reaction is, pull what I can, save it so that I don't lose more. Look, depending on where you're at in the conversation, obviously you have to make different decisions. For people that are younger, I would say if you have something invested, hang on to it and ride it out. Most of these things will turn back, and we're looking at long-term commitment to financial investment. We're looking at long-term commitment to raising kids, looking at long-term commitment to health and all those things. And so hang on. If you can't handle the stress of it, looking at it every day, just close the computer and do something fun with someone that you love. And go forward. If you have money saved up, there are some good investments right now, some great opportunities that if you do some research on it, companies that are strong companies that are half the value that they were 2 months ago, but they're companies that have the bandwidth, equity, and plan and vision moving forward, that they'll bounce back. And so, I would say if you don't have the money, hang on to what you have. Don't get scared and lose a ton by selling it all off. And if you do have some money to play with right now, or to invest in something, not play with, but to invest in something, then I would say do some good research. And there's some great opportunities out there to hopefully move forward in a good way, if that makes sense, without giving advice.
So when there's crisis and there's fear in the market, people go to safety, right? So they go to the dollar, they go to the to gold, right? And to all these things. Now the question is, now the last crisis that we had, Bitcoin wasn't a big thing, but by the time, right? Do you think that people are going to shift and they're going to put some money in Bitcoin now, as escaping from, or not trusting the federal government of the US that is going to hang on to this crisis, printing more and more money? Do you think that something like that could happen or not?
And that's a very interesting and very complicated question. I think Bitcoin and some of those other guys, some of the cryptocurrencies that are there, they're here to stay. I don't know what that means long term. There's a lot of speculation on it. There's a lot of things happening even this year with Bitcoin that could move some prices or not. And it's all speculative. Most likely will. It's down quite a bit right now. May go down more, but if you have some money that you're wanting to invest and diversify into crypto, then yeah, I think it's a good idea to be in that market as well. Obviously, don't invest your kids' schooling money or the food you need to eat with or the money you need for rent. But if you have some, then yeah, I think that there are a lot of people that are saying, hey, with the blockchain technology and the things that are happening with that, I think it's an important move to say, let's be a part of things that are going to change the future. And blockchain will change the way that we operate 20, 30 years from now. So yeah, I think it's a great time if people are able to do something. And even if they do a little bit, I think someone asked me, 20 years ago, how'd you start investing? And I said, I could do like $10 a month, US dollar at the time. And I said, so I started doing $10 a month. And so, man, if you can do a little bit, do a little bit. If you can do a lot, go for it. But one day at a time, and just make wise investments, read a lot. And I think it's definitely something that people should be thinking about for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I know it was a super complicated question. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I'm sorry, but I know you're really into cryptocurrency, not the currency itself, but blockchain as technology that is going to change the world. And it's super interesting. Now, I wanted to talk with you about money from a Bible perspective, because I know that there's a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of lack of knowledge on that aspect. And I wanted to ask you what that means for you. I know that it says the love of money is the root of all evils. That's like the most popular phrase from the Bible, but there's way more information there about money and how to, or what does it mean for you? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think money is one of those things that it affects everyone. Obviously, it's super important. I think it's one of those things that we need to be wise about how we handle it. I would say, starting off, if you don't live on a budget, you should be. And so if you don't have a budget, then you're definitely going to be living out of your means and not be able to accomplish the goals and dreams you want to do. And so that would be step one for me. When we talk about like faith and money, the Bible has like 500 verses on faith, okay, and like over 2,500 on money. And so I think one of the reasons that is because money is such an important part of how we live, but it's also something that can either help us move forward in accomplishing our dreams, our goals, the plan that we feel like God has for our lives, or it can completely cripple us and stop us from moving forward if we're not wise stewards. And so, the Bible does say the love of money is the root of all evil. It doesn't say money's evil, but the love of it. And so, I would say the kind of juxtaposition for me is, where's your heart in the matter? Okay. If the heart of something is, I want to get more so I can have more, so I can have more, so I can get more, so I can have more, then, you're out of balance. If we do that with food and we say, I want to have more food so I can eat more food, so I can have more food, so I can eat more food, we all know that doesn't turn out well. You got to throw some gym in there. You got to throw in some wisdom, some salads, etc., to be able to keep a good health. And then you're a champion for good health and just wholeness when it comes to that. And I appreciate that about you guys. But for me, I would say one of the things that I appreciate is that Scripture talks to us about being wise stewards. Solomon said, a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. He's talking about investing and planning and thinking beyond just ourselves to what can be for longer term. And so I would say, there's nothing, money is not evil, but it is definitely one of those things that if we allow God to be in the center of our lives in all areas, and we have a biblical perspective on finance, then there is a way that we say, hey, I'm going to be wise steward of what I've been given. I'm going to invest. I'm going to work hard, but I'm going to turn outward. And that's one of our core values at ICB. Is like we turn everything outward focused. And so, we on a constant basis say, how can we be a blessing to the world around us? We do believe that we tithe, and so as people of faith, we give in obedience 10% of our income. And people go, how would you do that? I think it's a biblical principle that God says, hey, I've blessed you, and so you're going to be a part of my kingdom work, my advancing of what's going on. And then generosity. I think generosity is something that is a lost art in some ways, but I do think generosity moves the heart of God, and I think that we can see in people's lives when people are generous, it changes the way that they do everything. There's a scripture that says the world of the generous gets larger and larger, and the world of the stingy gets smaller and smaller. And we see that all the time, right? People that are greedy, stingy, only looking out for themselves, turning it inward, their world just gets more focused on who they are and what they want to do. And then we have these people that we know that are incredibly generous and constantly turn it outward. And you're like, man, how did they keep doing better? And how does their world just keep growing? And how do they know so many people? And how do they keep making more for their business? And now, I'm not saying it's a magic formula by no means, but there's something about a generous heart that says, I'll be a wise steward with what God's given me. I'll work hard. I'll plan well. I'll invest. I'll save. And I'm going to be generous. And so like our family, we plan on our budget for how to be generous. And so, we support things like compassion. There's a thing with Agape, which is a ministry here in town that's doing kits for people that are homeless. And we're saying, hey, kids, what are we going to do? How much are we going to give? And the kids will find change, and we put it in one jar in our house so that we can plan to be generous, and we can do that. So, we want to be generous with our finances, with our energy, with our time. And just I think if we live with a posture of generosity, it changes the way that we interact and see the world. And it can be beautiful. But the Bible is very clear and gives us, if we actually look at it, not as something that's manipulating us, but something that's resourcing and empowering us, then we really can see a really beautiful roadmap of how to do it well and live differently.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much. That's great. And I really think that, God is abundance, right? So we were created from a God that is super abundant. And if we live that way, in his image, it's incredible what happens. And also I think money, exactly like you were saying, if you're doing good stuff and you're a good steward and you're managing your money biblically and you're doing great stuff, then more is going to keep coming. If you're doing bad stuff, it's also going to amplify that, so
absolutely.
So I think that's the misconception that sometimes happens. Like, money also does really, really bad stuff at the same time too,
Yeah, I've had people say, I don't know why God would want to manipulate my money like that. Jesus was very clear. He said, I came that you would have life and have it to the fullest, like abundant life, enjoy it, and not just like something beyond way. And he said, I want you to have life and life to the max that you can do. And so, man, when we operate and live within those margins that help us along the way, life is just more enjoyable. And it's good.
Yeah, and when you talk about giving and you really see the stuff that ICB is doing in this city and in the world, it's like, it's amazing what's happening, what God's doing with that money, with that church in Barcelona, in the world. So it is amazing. It is amazing. And you guys are a blessing. Brandy, if you guys don't know Brandy, we're trying to do an episode with her. We're trying to set her up because she's amazing. John's wife, she has a lot of energy. You guys are explosive together, amazing team. And what you guys put together with ICB is amazing. So last question before you finish, I want to take more of your time. You guys have 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
3 kids in quarantine now for almost 3 weeks. So what's the key to success at home with 3 kids?
Yeah, the key to success at home with 3 kids is Brandy. So if you don't have a Brandy, you're probably in trouble. No, man, I would say in the beginning, It was slightly chaotic, obviously, terrifying for Brandy and I, just thinking, man, we're going to be locked in. At that time, we thought for a week or two, and now we're like day 22, I think, without being able to go outside. The kids are locked up inside. But I will say, one of the things that has really helped us is consistency and schedule. We had the privilege of being on a call with a guy named Dr. Henry Cloud last week, and he was talking about the psychology of quarantine, of crisis, and just what's going on with us. And one of the things that he said was, at first, when you're locked into something like this, like we all respond with learned helplessness. Like the first thought is, oh no, everything's changed. I can never go outside again. It's never going to be the way it was. And he said, really to push through that and get to a place where you can be on a schedule, controlling what you can control, celebrating the accomplishments you can accomplish, owning what you can't, and then putting it to the side. And so Brandy was really a champion of that in the very beginning, before we even chatted with him on that, and said, hey, we've got to get the kids on a schedule, because if not, we're going to go crazy. So I have friends whose kids are like up till midnight every night, and ours are not. Ours are up 30 minutes longer than they would have been normally, but they're up in the morning and they have breakfast. They do their exercise and workout with Brandy every day. They do their schooling, and then they have a time where it's, relaxation, creative. We do family devotions together in the morning and at night, and then they have a time where they're allowed to watch a movie. And so everything is very much so scheduled out. Time for God and connecting as a family with the devos, time for fun, time for school. But that schedule has given some normalcy, some normal feeling to life, and really helped them go, oh, we're excited about these things. She printed out a schedule of like what we're eating every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And, obviously everything's closed, so we're making it all here. But they get excited about seeing those things. They get excited about celebrating the things and times we have together. And so we still have some family traditions where we say, hey, Monday night is date night for mom and dad. Right now, that's watching a movie in the living room. Wednesday night is our family night. And so we spend time as a family together, and we'll do something as a family still. And so we give them some ownership in the home. They clean and they take care of their space. They do their chores and their responsibilities. And we make sure that we don't just do it all for them, but we do it together. And so those consistent things we can control and celebrate together have really helped us along the way. In that, we even celebrated my oldest. She just turned 11 while we were in quarantine. And so we made the most of it and Amazoned in a few things to make the party as big as we could. Mom made a 4-layer cake, and we just had a blast. And so she actually said at the end of it, best birthday ever. So yeah, we're locked up. Yeah, we're on quarantine. But honestly, what can we control? Our perspective, our viewpoint on how we do it, the way that we're going to handle it. So anyway, we've got our rules of how we do things, our schedule of what's going to happen. We're not perfect by any means. And we celebrate little wins along the way. Have we lost control a few times? Yes. It's been chaotic more times than normal, but beautiful in so many ways. And so, man, sink into it and enjoy it. But that's been our goal at this point.
That's awesome. Well, Pastor John, thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us and sharing with the people of Barcelona some tips. There's some really cool stuff that is recorded here. It's going to be on all the podcast platform that there is. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you're doing for the city, along with Brandy, with ICB, with all the team there. We have so many friends. I couldn't name them all, but I will be here for another 20 minutes. It's amazing what you guys are doing. Thank you so much again. And if there's anything else that you want to share, you can.
Sure. I would just say just a couple things. One, we love you guys. We appreciate who you are, what you do, and just how you connect. So thanks for doing that. Keep on. And thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. I would just say as well, we are not perfect. We're on a journey, all of us together, but we've got a beautiful community here in Barcelona, in Valles area, in Vilanova i Geltrú. And so, and if you're listening and you need help along the way or have questions, we would love to begin a journey with you. And so reach out. We'd love to connect with you. But thank you for your heart and your generosity and for your vision to connect leaders and to love on the city in beautiful ways. And so we love you guys. And hey, if you're listening right now and you want to come and chat and have a coffee, I love coffee, and I'd love to see you at ICB.
Yes. All the ICB leaders, even John and Brandy, super accessible. They want you to reach out. They want you to talk to them. They want you to have people to guide you through this crazy journey. and pray with you and be with you. So it's an amazing thing to do. If you are not going to ICB, you want to get plugged in, go to icbspain.com, right?
Yep, that's it.
icbspain.com. You can get in contact with them. But yeah, thank you so much for joining in. And thank you, Pastor John. You guys have a wonderful day.